Welcome back to the Owner Seat Podcast, the show where fitness and wellness operators, franchisors, and franchisees get the real playbook on what it takes to scale with clarity, not chaos. Today's episode is different from anything I've done on the show before. This is not an interview, it's a healthy debate. I have a thesis that I believe is going to reshape how every fitness and wellness operator in this audience thinks about their revenue model. And I brought in one of the most qualified people I know in this industry to push back on it, stress test it, agree where he agrees, and challenge me where he doesn't. Here's my argument. The 30-day gym membership is dying. It's going away. Not because operators like you want it to die, not because the model hasn't worked for years, but because the consumer is already living like it's dead. The member is living like it's dead. They want a pay-as-you-go dynamic pricing model, and they're going to force it. They average 8 to 10 visits per month, and they know they're overpaying for what they actually use. And AI-powered wearables and usage analytics are about to make the underutilization math completely transparent. The model I'm arguing for is a pay-as-you-go, dynamic pricing, usage-based structure where members pay per visit at a lower per visit cost. And once they hit a defined threshold, this is why it's different than a class pass or a gym pass or a Fitual. Let's say 10 visits to 12 visits within a 30-day window. Every additional visit is free for the rest of that period. Frequency gets rewarded. Infrequency stops being subsidized. And the operator who figures out how to drive visit frequency with a great experience rather than collect passive monthly EFTs, shout outs to the HVLPs out there, is the one who builds a more defensible, more loyal, and ultimately more valuable business. My guest today has the background to either validate this thesis or completely dismantle it. And honestly, I'm not sure which way the conversation's going to go. That is exactly why I wanted him in this seat. Marcelo is a commercial sales leader with over 20 years of experience scaling revenue across digital health, fitness technology, wearables, physical therapy, and human performance markets. Marcelo will be working as a B2B U.S. sales manager for U.S. Tonal. What an exciting opportunity and organization. And he's going to be uplifting it and upgrading it. His career, if you take a look at it from the major technology shifts, he's all over it, from fitness and health industry, from Polar Electro to Equinox, as he's helped them launch some of the first performance tracking and wearable heart rate programs in commercial health clubs, to Zephyr Technology, where he helped close the Under Armour deal for the NFL Combine, to Neo Labs, where he led the relaunch of performance wearable products, both B2C and B2B. And he's all over it. BioStrap, VP of Sales for the first machine learning powered remote user monitoring platforms, OxFit, the AI powered smart strength platform. I'm screwed today during this conversation. I don't know if it's going to make it. We'll see. He's also the founder of BioInsights, a technology forum and consulting company that connects businesses with biometric solutions to drive operational and revenue outcomes. If anyone can look at the pay-as-you-go thesis through the lens of what the data actually shows about consumer behavior, visit frequency, and what technology is making possible right now, it's Marcelo. Marcelo, so excited. I'm a little nervous. Welcome to the Owner Seat Podcast, sir.
You're giving me way too much credit, man.
No, you're crushing it, man. You're hustling. I love it.
I appreciate it. It just shows, I have the hairline to match the experience. The biggest thing that I think in preparation for this conversation with you was I really took a look at the historical data that you reference, 8 to 10 utilization, you know, penetration for the PT model. So I'm really excited to have this conversation because I honestly feel like the area that from an operations standpoint, what we need to address and to kind of like dive right in is the anxiety of the owner and operator in a model like this.
Right.
But then also on the other side of that, the evolution of what you just described, AI, and then the tech stacks that are out there. What is it going to look like, the service side of the industry? I mean, I was a personal trainer as well and a personal training manager at Equinox for 12 years. Our excitement was PT.net. So I go back to that era to what it is now. And what it is now, it's honestly, I mean, this is going to be a really interesting conversation. I don't know how you want to kick this off, but I mean, I'm not, I'll start off by saying this. I think that the traditional club PT model is what's
Mm,
failing. I don't think the flat reoccurring revenue model that has been historically there necessarily has to change. I think there has to be a base level of service that comes along with it because the gym industry right now, monetarily wise, from an operating expense, it's not going to survive if you're going to decide to just make a massive pivot
mm,
to what you're describing, right?
yeah.
Because that dip, owners and operators won't survive. They can't keep their doors open. So how do they embrace that dip? Because you are right. I think the digital impact from post pandemic has created this payment model that you're describing, pay as you go,
Yeah,
and
no,
and,
that's
and the and the reward behind utilization.
let's unpack that. Interesting points. I think let me start high level from what I think. I think we all know the issues going on with the health epidemic, at least domestically here. I think you also couple that with the trillions of dollars of value that the fitness and wellness industry says that it's creating. Yet the data around health has continued to underperform. How is that possible? How is that there's more gyms and wellness clinics and studios out there? There's so much more data available, yet the data around health from the member and consumer is worsening.
Yeah.
I think we all got to say, number one, that's unacceptable. Number
It is
two,
unacceptable, but the demographic data that you're referring to is the member that attends the gym, and that's a small percentage.
right?
The
The power
behavior,
user.
yeah, the human behavior is what it is, right?
Sure.
If given an option, do I do leg training or do I go to the couch? It's that conversation that everyone has. Like you have to grab that little inner child and drag yourself to the gym if you want the outcome, the results. Nothing could, regardless of what, even today, if you're on a GLP-1 or a
Well,
peptide or a hormone, you still need to work out.
yeah.
So,
Got to move.
at the end of the day, people have to understand it's behavior change. And I think
Yeah.
that's, so at least the model like you're presenting does reward behavior change.
Yeah, so that's what I'm getting to is that this pay as you go, even dynamic pricing, which is more of like a heat map efficiency. So it's a little bit different there, but on the pay as you go, right? What I've seen, the data, I use 8 to 10, but actually in some power user cases, you see the 12. Typically, it's averaging around that 12 times per month. And I've gotten a lot of heat about this thesis from operators saying, to your point, Marcelo, there has to be a dip. Like, how are we going to survive? There's going to be a
Yeah.
revenue dip if we're not collecting this monthly subscription. And Albert, you talk about cash flow all the time and this reoccurring EFT and dues model. How are we going to forecast this? It's possible, but they're right. It's harder. But I'm not saying this is not going to be owner industry influence. It's not, this is a customer, member, consumer piece. This is what people aren't understanding. I don't think anyone's going to have a choice, the franchisee, the franchisor, the owner that's listening. So we have to be prepared for something like this. And by the way, it's coming. I can't get into the details, but it's coming. It's
Oh, yeah.
happening internationally already,
Yep.
whether you want to call it stealth or people are flying under the radar, but it is coming to let's just call it a smart gym or studio near you very, very soon. So
Yeah.
this is gonna change when the consumer finds out that they no longer have to subsidize the 20 other days they don't use it, let's call it on average. I think things are gonna change. I think because payments are faster, right? We have great platforms out there like ABC, Walla, and some others and Stripe and all of that stuff that make it faster. And then Marcelo, to your point in this amazing infrastructure that you get to influence directly with usage, wearables, data analytics. Now consumers are smarter, right? To your point, there has to now be an incentive for them to move and get in more often, or at least come in general. And I think this is what's going to be dictated by the consumer is I know where I'm at. I have better biomarkers or whatever kind of markers you want to call it. there's more gyms and studios, so from a convenience, I'm good to go there, right? I think, and then just data around payments and all that. I think people are gonna are gonna want to say very similar to the class pass. I say similar, but not the same, right? Because it's a different model. I
Yeah.
only want to pay when I use it, and I'm starting to see this in other industries too. I mean, I think we'll start to see this in streaming. Is I don't want to pay a subscription that I don't use. I think we're tired of that. We only want to pay money when we actually use it, and the technology allows it to happen that quick. What do you think?
I think it's more about a clear value ladder, right? I
Uh-huh.
think identifying a good, better, best, a base model that covers the operational overhead that I need have to have the staff to facilitate this. Is the infrastructure correct? I mean, you're identifying a new business model more or less, right?
Sure.
And that's kind of what the boutique industry did, right?
Right.
10 or less employees, I can generate this much revenue. This is how much operational expenses will be. This is how much money you should make within 3 years, 5 years. Every franchise organization has their book and their revenue goals, right? On paper, it's supposed to hit. In reality, not every single market space supports it. But I definitely agree that we need to have some type of tool that allows us to access markets, right? A premium customer and right now we're seeing the impact of going towards just a Planet Fitness, right? It's overcrowded, not
Right.
clean anymore. They're struggling. Boutique owners and operators are dealing with, well, I don't offer this service, so what am I going to do? Am I going to add a stretch table? Am I going to add recovery? How do I compete against everyone? I mean, Orange Theory has adopted more of a strength training model
Yeah.
when it was just purely heart based. So I think, like it or not, we have to define a good, better, best where there's a base membership that provides this guided digital onboarding experience. And then it's there to be co-piloted with an operator that the operator could focus on the human side of this, right?
Yeah.
So AI will not replace that individual, but it will be more of a tool that owner and operator could use. And then having a small group, I think having a small group offering,
Mm.
whatever that is, and how can that be delivered where you could still standardize the service as an operator, where I'm not tethered to an employee, because that's the dilemma.
Yeah.
We can't hire staff. We can't keep staff because we can't pay staff enough. The staff, though, doesn't understand that they need to sell and they need to make revenue as well to create this happy ecosystem. And then last but not least, a premium high touch personal training or recovery solution that could be billed for regardless of utilization. So it's like three different pricing tiers. It could be a $45 base, a with 65 that includes small group, regardless of utilization, and then $150 for premium. I know
Right.
on the East Coast and West Coast that's cheap, but I'm talking about like a
On average.
average
Yeah.
price covering the 50 states because I mean I grew up in New York, as you guys see in my background, but I live out now in Ohio, and if I try to apply a New York strategy here, it's not going to work. So whoever, if you're a franchisee or if you're a person that wants to expand your business,
Mm.
you have to give that a thought.
No, it's so interesting to think about because you're also talking about, I'm so glad we're chatting about this, the expense model, because you're right. I actually think, and I argue this a lot, and I think that the way we're trained to operate our business for those that come from a finance or not a finance background, we get married to the P&L and definitely the revenue. What we don't necessarily think about too much is the unit economics, right? The flow through down to the bottom line, and then even more so cash flow models. And so I like to put out a lot of posts about that and videos, and that's kind of my thing and what I'm passionate about. I love that you're bringing up the expense model though, and I actually think I'm curious on what your thoughts are. Right now, there's this major, obviously, with AI and the compute power is just, I mean, just in the last month, for those that use Chat GPT, if you had an opportunity to use Claude and some others, you know what
Right.
I'm talking about. It's amazing what it can do right now, and I can only imagine what it's going to do in the next 30, in the next 60. But I do think we need to start thinking about not only the data infrastructure, right? And big shout outs to like a Grow Solutions and some others that are helping with this, but also our headcount strategy. What needs to be human in the loop and what can be an agentic or agent digital species type of headcount? It's kind of odd to think about it that way, but it's possible today. I think about I just think about walking into a gym, right? And this is no disrespect to any brand. Everyone deals with it. I'm just going to talk about what I've observed in my experience, right? And by the way, 10 times, it's amazing. But let me just say, I'll walk into a Lifetime or a Planet Fitness or an Orange Theory, and people I'm sure can relate with this. There's going to be those opportunities where you have that human at the front desk who has the scanner at the front so you can scan in yourself now when they should be doing it. They're on their phone. And I'm just thinking with the technology today, with biometrics, with your ability to scan in, like, why is that even needed? And I'm not saying that I'm a pro, get rid of everybody. I'm just saying if we are going to move into this pay as you go dynamic pricing model that is influenced and supported by the technology infrastructure, can we take a look at the expense model too? Because this doesn't mean your profit margins need to shrink. That's not what I'm arguing. The way I've modeled this is you actually have an opportunity to make better cash flow, not necessarily from a huge volume unless there's some type of consolidation, but I'm saying you actually have more free cash flow as a percentage of everything squeezing out because the expense model also would need to be altered, obviously, with this revenue model, this revenue approach when it's not a 30-day subscription base where you can't forecast it that way. Well, you can forecast it, but you're not necessarily waiting 30 days to get your dues tap. So it's really interesting. I see it from that angle too, where you can have an agentic sales force. Clearly, operations and cleaning is a little bit different. But you think about Lumen Fitness, you think about some of the Tonal, you think about these other brands that you don't need a human in the room instructing you. There's actually better hyper personalization when you walk into these rooms. Look at Safe Sweat. I like what they're doing. Look at what's the other one with Steve Pert actually just recorded. And sorry, it's not at
Oh,
the top of my head, but he's doing amazing work out there in Indiana too now, franchising. And I think you actually don't need humans. Now, the PT model is very interesting, but even then, I look at what eGym's doing. Again, Tonal and some others.
I
Go ahead, go ahead.
I don't think, let's say, the equipment is the product. It's the connective tissue that makes the
Right,
model scalable, right?
right, right.
AI will handle the data. The culture of the employee is going to handle that relationship.
Sure.
Um, and really, it's not about um, it's the operator really has to focus on monetizing unused off-peak capacity, has to improve onboarding, has to reduce
Mm,
early member drop-off, has to create a data-driven upsell path, and then has to understand how do you increase revenue per member without impacting payroll proportionally.
right,
And that's easier said than done. It's harder when you're trying to pivot these franchises because operationally that's you know they want something that's frictionless and that's just not realistic. So the operator needs to buy innovation and then they can buy the revenue and retention and efficiency more effectively. So it's really talking about the pricing model, a good,
right.
better, best. That's
Mm,
really it. It's measuring those things and focusing on those things. That's where AI is going to help. That's
yeah.
where, to your point, like I a local gym to me, it's the first gym that I've seen here locally in Ohio that there is no front desk person. It's
Mm,
RFID at the door, 24 access.
yeah.
I could scan anything from the cooler, pay for it either on my phone or at a tablet there. There is one employee staff there at all time at during business hours, and they're more about relationship. They know
Mm.
I'm a serial day pass guy. I'm not a member.
Oh, so
I'm
you're
a
perfect for this. I love
yeah
it.
yeah. I'm to a point I am, but
Yeah.
to a point I'm trying to find a place where I'm willing to pay a membership to
Mm,
because I'm quite picky. I was spoiled. Equinox fitness clubs, their amenities are, pretty high. You know, they had a cold plunge before it became trendy. They had a beautiful spa section before it became, now a requirement for recovery. Hot and cold plunges, dry sauna, a wet sauna. Those things, like back then, we knew the impact on recovery. We knew the impact on what. Now it's kind of like catching mainstream more. I think that's the problem with the US is it's so large that the only thing that will change it is when you see massive failure and turnover,
I'm
which doesn't
curious on that
happen.
actually. You made me think about this because I think this generation coming up as well loves the variety. Do you think that's
More health
part do
oriented.
you think that's part of why you also like the day pass approach? Like, do you is it because it's not
Me, I'm
right
my part.
today,
Thank you,
it's not
Roger.
the most convenient, right? You gotta, do the whole thing and pay your day pass or guest workout fee, some call it that. It's not as easy as what I think is gonna happen with the phone and tap and that's it. Or, you think about the Amazon Just Walk Out or iFi, AIFI, iFi. They're in a lot of stadiums, but you walk in, you grab an item, you walk out, and it charges your card. It knows it knows who you are. So maybe that's what's gonna happen in our gyms and studios. But is it that you like the variety and could that even support this thesis that, I think the consumer wants to be able to hop around and go to a club Pilates and then go to a ritual yoga and go to a Lifetime or Equinox and have the choice of where to go and not have to have, a $2.99 membership, a $24.99 membership, you know?
We're oversold to. That's the challenge.
Yeah.
So we're desensitized. I think Gen Z, to answer your question, is a little bit more apt towards this model because they grew up in it, as well as they're more health conscious. So they want to have broader, they understand that it's not just about meathead lifting. Well, it's about lifting with intention, purposefully, either towards the aesthetics or towards performance, but it's not only that, they're cautious about their health and well-being, so they're monitoring their sleep, they're looking at HRV, they're looking at their blood markers. I'm not saying that my generation didn't or the olders didn't, but they were more of the work hard, play hard type of mentality.
Right.
I grew up, the first gym that I managed was Vertical Club in New York City. Was literally above it was a famous bar. And, people would be working out and it wouldn't be uncommon for them to literally go and drink, work hard,
Mm,
play hard. That was that generation. It wasn't so conscious that it would impact your health until they got older, until they got into their 50s and 60s. And now that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the population in a very short period of time, in 5 years, is going to be greater, is going to be over the age of 65 than compared to the younger generation. So our birth rates have gone down.
mm,
However, this generation is not as healthy. So we're going to need to have a broad business model that can service them. And I think the middle tier of this market that we're not talking about yet is really the one that can provide they've done it before. The battle against boutiques, they brought in a box within a box model, right?
yeah,
So then Orange Theory and all these other boutiques their growth started trending down. Not stopping, it's just you're not seeing the hockey puck stick of growth.
yeah.
Oh, and that kind of happened to Anytime and Snap. So it's like if you look at the major franchises, they're retooling. They're looking at their PT models. But I think, I'm curious to see what Mark
I
Mastrov's
was
going
just
to
gonna bring
do.
it out, yeah.
He's everyone knows he's the
What is he up
GOAT.
to over there?
Yeah, well, he's the GOAT. I mean, he's what he has touched has is still relevant in the industry. I mean, people don't realize, but like sliding a credit card and having a reoccurring model through a CMS is very young in this industry. It's not that
Mm.
old. So, we're talking about maybe 50 years.
Do you think he's still like, I'm curious to see what he does at 2-4. I know I put something out there, the conch is blowing. All the old 2-4 guys are like, put me in, coach. I see all the pictures from HFA. They're like, put me back in. I want to come back. So I'm excited about what he's going to be up to. I'm curious, and what are your thoughts on this? And I want to get to Planet Fitness and your thought. Well, not just Planet, sorry, all the HVLPs and how this would impact them. But from a Mark Mastrop, is he going to try to still play in the middle tier, do you think? Or does he have to make a decision of what 2-4 is going to do? Are they going to go down at EOS, right? They're making a big splash right now in the HVLP space, or are they going to play in the, it's very slim Equinox and Lifetime. It's hard to compete with that moat and the boutiques. Is he going to bring a little bit more value, charge a little bit more, or do you think he's going to figure it out at the existing price point in the mid tier and fight two battles at once on both sides?
I think you test it out and run an A/B test,
Yeah.
have a price model that services the premium as well as the HVLP people, and be
Mm,
competitive, because what you're still doing is impacting your competitor's business, but then you have the opportunity of still growing revenue.
yeah.
But you have to change the metrics that matter, which is revenue per member,
Mm.
conversion rates per tier, engagement, retention, off-peak utilization, but then, you know, measurable outcomes too, right? Like, the last area of the gym that's not being utilized for measurable outcomes or strength scores is the weight floor. It's still steel. Not to say that steel doesn't work. Steel
Mm.
works. It's great. However, what's measuring that outcome and what's keeping a baseline for that individual, and then what can collect data and provide meaningful outcome back to a coach that could own that relationship, or to a professional. So I don't think trainers will go. I think what's going to happen is you have to have a specialist. You have to have a tech specialist, and you have to
Mm.
have a person that is
I like that.
physiology, and let them you could let them create that business model and create the reoccurring model. It's not going to go away. You're going to still have one-on-one. People are still going to want one-on-one. People are going to still want semi-private service where they can go up to a screen, get their workout, time efficient, 20 to 30 minutes, they're out,
So
you know.
you think Mark will triple down on the subscription-based model that he kind of brought to the industry?
He's not going to throw it away, right? He
Mm,
can't. He's tied to it.
yeah.
He's going to evolve it though, and his goal is to solve the people that are not in the gym.
Mm,
That's the real market.
yeah.
I mean, listen,
It costs a lot of
likely
money though to get him in.
it cost of CAC cost will not go away, but
Mm,
that doesn't mean you don't figure out a way.
yeah.
And I think that with GLP-1s, with hormones, with peptides, this older population that I mentioned before wants to have a community but doesn't want to be intimidated, and that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So you have to have, I think, whoever could solve that in a meaningful way, and not just buying product and thinking that you're going to get revenue just because I bought
The
this
ancillary.
row of selectorized equipment, just
Right.
because I brought, pick any equipment line right now, you know any it's going to, no, you have to have a business model supporting it, and there's a reason why you're doing it. So the goal is to connect to the P&L metrics, to the member results.
Curious on the HVLP. I brought up Planet. You mentioned Anytime and Snap, and I mentioned EOS as well. Yeah, I think that's where I've gotten the most heat in my DMs on
Hmm.
LinkedIn is from that space. Is like how there's just no way where this will not work because for instance, Planet, they've built $1 billion business, right?
Yeah.
And I would argue, and I don't say this in a mean way or to be a jerk, but I would say on the back of members who are paying, and granted, they're still busy, but on a lot of other members, the majority of them that pay and they're not showing up. 1999, there's a black card, I think is what they call it. And I love going there, by the way. I love it. I love those massage chairs. I get my good. All I need is weights, a Smith machine. I'm a good man. I don't need to always be at a Lifetime or Equinox. But a lot of these members aren't showing up. Like that's the thing. It's busy there now, but there's also 9,000 other members that aren't coming. So that is their capacity model. Like many of the other, it's not just Planet and many of the other ones that I just mentioned. So Yeah, that's one thing is, again, I go back to, well, Planet's not gonna have a choice. EOS is not gonna have a choice. This has nothing to do with the owner or C-suite executive team or board choosing this. This is gonna be consumer driven because of the tech, because they have access to transparent information. They're savvier and they don't wanna subsidize anymore if they don't need to. And so I'm curious, and I know I'm going kind of around in circles on this just because I'm so passionate about it. But from a technology, let's go that route. What are you seeing? Like, what does the consumer have access to now? And let's just talk, just 10 years ago from today to now. How is in from your lens, because you're behind the scenes on all of this, well, in front as well, but with all the technology, I mean, you got your hands in all of it. How is it how is it transforming our industry, and what should we be prepared for in the future?
I think I think we need to have a better standard. I think we've gotten better at being able to collect data, but it's still very fragmented and no one yet knows how to aggregate it. But I think the biggest companies out there have one metric and they claim that this metric, drives engagement and utilization. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the outcomes are not being tied to that. And that's
Yes.
what really matters.
Yeah.
So I think if you're going to be bringing in any technology, that it has to be interoperable. So
Mm,
like I have a Polar, I have an Aura Ring, I've tested other devices. You mentioned, Mio, we were the first PPG monitor out in the market space. So
right.
we literally brought in to the market space heart rate through LEDs. And, that's when I had an opportunity working with Orange Theory and other organizations and helping them grow their technology. I think in the market space right now, you have consoles that have been new with touch screens and with apps. So I can get a workout either through my app or I can get a workout already on screen in console. But again, there's no connection unless I can connect my wearable to there, but then the data stays within over here. And how does the owner and operator or the trainer get access to this, right? And
Right.
then on the strength training floor, I already made mention to it. There's nothing that screens the individual biomechanically.
Mm,
There's nothing that identifies areas of strength or power and how they're continuing to progress in that way. If we're finally standardizing a little bit more of the body compositioning,
right.
in-body, U-Volt, SECA, you name it now, there's some high quality bioimpedance solutions. It helps in being able to validate my results, right? Joined the club within the first owners, hopefully within the first 3 days, they're in there for an assessment and they're in there for their complimentary services. Hint, that drives your revenue to the PT model.
Love it.
So if you onboard them that way, they then will stay there longer. There's a better lifetime value. That's the standard model that I feel is non-existent.
I was gonna say that, and this is where I just go back to, how are we looking at our headcount model? I'm just gonna say it because I've been part, and in this, I won't name the brand, but I've been part of a lot of different brands that we claim that we're really good at what you just mentioned, but it's like, how many people are actually doing the
Personal
health and
training.
fitness assessment, or some people call it HFC, or your onboarding workout with the personal trainer? Go look at the data, right? How many people are actually doing it? It's a percentage of all the new ads, or even your membership MBAL, your membership balance. How many people are actually doing it, going into personal training and actually buying
Okay.
It is not good. And so I think about
Nope.
all this payroll that we do and that we pay to go
I
do
know that
this.
statistic, by the way.
Oh,
It's
tell us, tell us. Yeah, let's go
three
through
to
it.
5%, 3 to 5%.
Oh,
That's yeah, it's exactly right. That's basically, take the heart, take that big knife out of my heart, please.
yeah.
I think what has to happen is, listen, I'm a personal trainer, a strength and conditioning coach for 25 plus years, still accredited, more of an educator on this side now and consultant, like you mentioned. I think the PT model needs to die.
Yeah,
I think the winning club model scales coaching because that's what we need now. We don't need a trainer. We need a coach.
yeah.
We need someone that could And it's a different, right? A trainer's gonna be there, he's going in a session. I'm not saying you're never gonna do one on biomechanical cueing and making sure a person's safe. I'm saying that we need to coach people on making better behavior decisions. And that's collecting now the opportunity of all this data that we're seeing physiologic. So like I could take a look and say, you know what? This week trend shows me that you're losing some sleep. What's going
Yeah,
on? Test week, my boss is a jerk, broke up with my girlfriend. These are things in the NCAA space when you're working with athletes,
yeah,
you ask. Those are subjective questions that we fail to ask in the real world, unless you're an empathetic individual. Rarely see it. But to your point, these organizations are not built that way. These owners and operators have a model that they're executing, and they're not understanding. It's like, all right, I collected. I my intake method is I sign that member up, I put them on the reoccurring revenue model, and then that's it.
exactly.
And
Or the
that's
other or the 3 to 5% go through that vertical, and then you cut that up some more. I
well,
love what Rocco, Rocco, he's doing great work with the team, right? He's been around for
yeah,
a long time. He's
with
leaning
ramp,
toward
yeah,
yeah, he's leaning towards that coach model, and sorry, I'm and Steve's gonna kill me for this at the top of this, but Steve Pert at Flexworks, they're also
yes,
attempting this with a lot of good technology, some, internal proprietary technology. I have an
yeah.
episode coming out with that, really cool. He actually demos a lot of it as well on the show, which I haven't done before, but I think you're right. I think it needs to completely flip on its head. But again, does it require this is weird to say, and I hate saying it, but an expensive human, or can we do this with the tech so that if there is that dip that I'm arguing
Well,
potentially will happen, but the expenses will drop too. Can we do
well,
it? And can we get better than 3 to 5% with better, transparent, personalized data? Because
uh,
sometimes a human just messes it up. We don't ask the right questions.
I look at the ramp model like you mentioned with Rocco, and you're not killing your monthly reoccurring. You're adding another $5 to $15 base membership that covers that overhead to keep maybe
Interesting.
keep you don't need to have a premium trainer to do biomechanics, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's you need to have a trainer, right? But you also you just need to make sure that they can pick the selectorized piece of equipment or that they're lifting safely. Now, if you want to further standardize it, there's camera technology now, like
Yeah.
I'll be shamelessly plugging here, Tonal, where
Totally.
actually it will cue and find your biomechanics and make sure that you're safely lifting and you're doing progressive overload over a period of time. And that's really where the
Mm.
ramp model and I think what smart tech can do, right, is can aggregate that. Me as a coach can make sure that I'm impacting the behavior, that they understand the movement requirements. And that's a cue that one could be visual, could be audio. How do you deliver that cue? But if that P&L is covered right there, an extra
Yeah.
five
No,
bucks a
that's so
month,
interesting.
an extra 10 bucks a month, an extra 15. If it's an extra 15, not only you could have this tiered model then,
Yeah,
which
no,
is
I haven't baked that in. That's real. Now you got me thinking. I'm gonna be up all night. Could it be that the point of entry, right, to solve the first major and the most important problem, which is getting everyone off their ass and getting in, and I say that politely, right? Fitness is tough, right? Wellness is tough. So I get that it's hard, but movement, right? Getting everyone up off that couch, as we were mentioning earlier. Maybe I'll edit that earlier. That was a mean way to say it. But get everyone up, get them in the gym, and the tension point because of the price, it's a lot easier. However, when you're in, now there's this subscription ecosystem that you get to choose from if you want, not necessarily upfront, because again, you might not be
or
using it and coming in. So you're just subsidizing and paying for it for
yeah,
no
or
reason.
have that one rate that
Right.
encapsulates all three and just say, listen, you have this available. You have fitness on demand, you have small group, or you have this recovery section.
So the
We have
tiered
this,
model is what you were saying earlier, the good, best, and
yeah, good,
VIP.
better, best.
Yeah.
And people could, I hope owners make it really easy also to cancel. I think that's been the biggest struggle in the
What are your
industry.
thoughts on that? And I got some feedback. I won't mention names, but from HFA, because I was giving them a hard time. I still am very disappointed and maybe
Yeah.
I'm missing something, but the articles that were coming out around, we got to fight the government and this regulation of not allowing, what was it called? Click to cancel, I think it was called. And I was just like, man, I'm actually really embarrassed that we're fighting the allowing the consumer to do what they want as quickly as they want, knowing the technology can allow them to. And I get it. That may hurt business if you're not providing a great experience. And I was just like, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. Am I missing anything there around, was this something much different than what I'm thinking? I'm like,
It's all
HFA,
about
no, this
your
is this
contract, right? If it's
right.
month to month, then you should have a within that cancellation rate to meet that expectation, right? But if it's an annual membership and they're sold that and
Mm,
educated that and say, listen, you know, we'll bring up this good, better, best solution. They sign up for it. It's an annual agreement. If you need to cancel, you know, it's possible, but we need to have at least however many months to break even, right?
mm,
So it might be 90 days out. You're obligated, with a 90-day cutoff period. I think there's a happy medium to meet that customer. I
yeah,
think as an I think I agree with you. I'm like, again, listen, I don't own a business right now as far as physical brick and mortar. If I did, yeah, of course I want to have an accurate cash flow measurement,
sure.
but you should be worried about that experience because that member could ruin your community faster. You just let
Totally.
them let them let them
Exactly.
out, let them out, or have it and say, "Listen, you know what? Let's do this. Can we'll reduce your payments for now, or if you can't reduce their payments for specific hours of utilization, you know, present offers and see if it's a pricing issue. And if it's price
Mm,
elasticity, then it helps, right? You're learning, but no one has that time. If you're going to have a general manager or operator, that should be their focus. And you can do that more now with tech. And an owner needs to have more flexibility. The challenge is who's going to be able to do it monetarily? Which club management software is going to allow you to be able to skin and live like this in this
yeah.
ecosystem? And very few do. That's the
Well,
problem.
you're familiar with ABC, right?
I worked for them
Yeah,
as a
you
V
work there. That's right. And, they've been really impressive. I mean, they're a behemoth, and I'm really liking what some other, shout outs to Deborah Strugo and Laura. You got Walla, you got Explorer, Club Ready, and some others.
great organization, club owners that have founded that company. Their most Toma Bravo's done a great job through merger and acquisition. ABC right now is one of the bigger solution providers to the market space, but with AI, and do you really need to have that any longer? Could you
I
create
was going to get to that
your
around
own
just the
ecosystem?
infrastructure, right?
Yeah,
So, I mean, from your view, well, let's get to, does the infrastructure now, right now, can it support the dynamic pricing that I'm talking about, the usage-based access, and can you scale that across, let's say, a franchise system? Is that possible today?
not yet because the problem is the AI fails to deliver the complete service. The cost to proprietarily create my own solution is a little bit more in the short term. How long is that going to be the case, right?
Right.
Because currently now you need a Python coder, but it's getting really close. Like you
Yeah.
brought up Claude, you brought up a couple of these other AI tech stacks.
Open
You
claw.
could, yeah, I mean, it's getting chat health, you can perplexity health,
Yeah.
you can create this beautiful ecosystem, but one, I think you need to have a founding group or a tech group that can bring this in. Um, I think you can do it if you're, let's say, you're an ABC franchisor and you have, 160 clubs. I mean, the good clubs that do this, probably 24-hour. I know Lifetime did at one point. I know
Mm.
Equinox did. You run these little 10 or 20 club skunk work projects where you have them run these ideas. That's the only way that you're going to be able to identify this.
Yeah, you need more data, right? You need more
Yeah.
data to see what's, like you're mentioning the testing
Well,
earlier, what Mark potentially might do. You need more data. You got to test it. That's a
so
culture thing though too. It's not necessarily a tech thing. We brought up Lifetime. I'm so proud of that brand because they really have gotten far more open-minded. First of all, we see them at way more conferences, so that's awesome. But the technology and although I don't, I can't, I've said this before, and maybe they'll kill me for it or send me a letter. I'm not a fan of the Lacey name, but I am a fan of what it's all about, what they're doing, speaking of glue for the ecosystem, what they're doing there.
I think these brands, I mean, have stood the test of time.
Yeah.
Lifetime is a unique business model. I mean, 110,000 square feet country club without the
Right.
golf course. That's
Right.
really what it is. It provides you those amenities, those services. I competed against them for a long time, being an Equinox
Yeah. Yeah.
employee. Um, they did not really make competitions into New York at that time. They were still, out in middle America more than anything, the
Mm,
Minneapolises
right.
of America, where they're from. I love Brahm. Anyone that's met Brahm is a hell of a gentleman,
Yeah. Very
very
passionate.
open, very talkable. I remember doing this beta testing because at that time they always look at heart rate training in a unique way.
Right.
I think you are right. They're more open. I also think the evolution of their business structure organizationally, where
Yeah.
trainers now are doing something totally different than what they were doing in the past.
Yeah.
If you're an owner and operator, you should be shopping your clubs within your area. I know, you get to a point where like, oh, I already know what they're selling in a membership, but operationally things have shifted.
Mm.
So I think you are right. Lifetime has done a great job. Equinox has done because they know their persona. They know who they're selling to. The challenge is, to your point though, is this community has gotten fickle because they can get now their services through a phone or they
Well,
can
I was
get
going to ask you about that, right? Because you worked at you're behind BioStrap and you're at Oxfit, and now that the consumer, the member, has all of this data and it's getting better and better, more precise, more personalized, does it make it harder for all of us, the operators, the owners, to justify? I'm going back to it because I'm going to keep hitting on it. Does it make it harder for us to justify that monthly fee? That's I'm curious about what.
Listen, I get often asked from Division 1 to
Mm.
professional coaches to athletes to the average, bag of donut guy, you think about it. These individuals all say, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? I think talking to researchers and PhDs that talk about this as well is I think the data is there. I think what we need to be able to do is capitalize on it.
Is that more like the analyzing it, like understanding it?
You don't even need to do that any longer with chat health and
Yeah,
perplexity health.
you just throw it in.
Yeah, just throw it in.
It's
Uh,
amazing.
the thing is the dashboard right now, the cost, right? It's still
Mhm.
not there because I'm adding more SaaS to my operating cost.
Yeah,
But that's a really, frankly, a poor way of looking at it.
yeah,
It's how much money I could potentially add on per head count of member. Could I
absolutely.
add another $5 and what does that look like by the end of the year?
That average revenue per member per user.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
and I think if I think long term and then create a community of, this gym has really done a great job at, getting my resting heart rate down, getting my
Mm,
body fat down, because they have the tools for assessment that are there, but then they also have the leadership that's telling me how to do progressive overload or is telling me how to train at the right intensities and how many times do I need to be in the gym to get my result and
mm.
what should I possibly eat, and or do I need to seek medical clearance,
This is why I like what Tonal's up to, what Grow Solutions is up to, because, and I'm curious on your thoughts, like where are we right now, or where will we be, let's say in the next year or two, around this AI biometric data actually being able to use that to quickly impact not just marketing, but to your point, creating the journey, right? The journey steps there, and providing not just the insights, but like, hey, Albert, hey, Marcelo, you need to go do this right now or tomorrow, or based on all of the inputs that the AI is getting, and it impacts the operator's revenue model. Where are we at? Like where
So
should we be at? How about maybe we ask that too? Where should, like, operators listening today, where should they be at, knowing like this is actually pretty affordable and this is the data you should be gathering? And
Unfortunately, the problem is this, there's nothing standardized, right?
yeah,
The FDA has come back to us and really kicked the can down the on the basically down the road because instead of saying it has to be the wearable has to have this type of standard, which would be FDA clearance. They made FDA not impossible, but it's a challenge. So you have wearables that give you this type of early indication, fall detection, AFib, a
I
dramatic
see.
change in body temperature, you slept less last night, your HRV score is trending low. These are all data points. Again, there's no standard. So that's the dilemma. So then having someone that understands this trends and can take this data and you can just dump it into an agent with a proper prompt using a data lake that is segmented based on peer reviewed research. And this is not on this is you could do this now for free,
Right. Yeah.
Frakes. You don't like what I'm telling you so far is done for free. And then I can tell the prompt and say, based on my weekly trends, my fitness goal is this. You're a world premier personal trainer
Yeah.
or the best Olympic strength training coach ever. And it'll spit out a damn good solution.
Right.
So trainers know this. Trainers scale the market space. Don't be fooled. I know they gripe. It's being done, but at the same time, owners and operators are sitting there being watching it being done. The smart ones are trying to integrate and create this ecosystem because that's really what it is. It's creating an ecosystem. So the companies too are not without fault.
Yeah.
Companies need to have interoperability. They need to have an API. Not many companies do.
Or just yeah, it's also I think I go back to that culture piece, like the adoption culture, the innovation culture, right? Do you have an AI committee yet, a policy? Are you thinking about this? Is it on the roadmap, or are you talking about it at the board or at the C-suite ELT meetings?
No, because every organization's still trying to figure out in this
What it is?
economy how to show a revenue model.
I go to these, and they're doing better, right? They're talking about it at least, but I go to these CFO leadership council meetings and alliance group meetings, and it's insane. I mean, still, I would say 5% of the CFOs at the table. These are some large tables of a lot of people at some of these large organizations, and no adoption. It's just not even there yet. We're still, yeah, it's still in this mode of figuring it out. But I go back to what you're saying earlier around testing, like just jump in and test, like start small.
Establish governance,
Right.
establish
Right.
agency. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Governance is it's going to be your Mr. Member, Mr. Customer, Mr. Patient. It's going to be your data. It's going to be in this secured database.
Hmm.
You know, all we're going to do is use it against this standardized or this research data lake, right? So the agency is still in that realm. It's going to be the co-pilot to your professional. That professional will receive this information and they will dictate what to do with it.
Yeah.
That's the workflow and ecosystem, and it's a symbiotic relationship. But you are right. I mean, the thing is, the CFO needs to see the return on investment. And if you could explain to them that I can make you changing your business by anywhere from 15 to 20% and then reduce your membership you know, expiration as far as early member leaving your facility, because we all know within 8 or 10 months they're gone.
Yeah.
What if I can give you a better lifetime value
Mm.
of another 12 to 16, 12 to 16-month member?
Music to my ears.
Well, yeah, that's what but the thing is you need to commit. It doesn't happen within a year, and that's the
Yeah.
challenge for an owner and
And
operator.
it doesn't happen if you don't change the way you do business either, or you're connecting with your member. If we're just going to do the same thing we've been doing for the last 15 years, very difficult to grow. It's very difficult.
Lifetime has that example right now. They've committed to that one model to provide the member experience that they want to desire, which is a reflection of their amenities and the services that they offer to keep that community, that family member
Right.
coming in with their kids and everyone there taking advantage of the pool, professionals using their business almost like a WeWork.
Right.
They've just opened it. I want to keep that member engaged.
Sticky.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, we've hit a lot of topics today. This was so good. I loved your thoughts around the good, better, and best. I'm going to continue to give that some thought. I actually really enjoy, and I said I'm going to stay up all night now, multiple nights in a row, because I do like the subscription within the box. I'll call it that, a subscription within the
Yeah.
box, because I think creating, and I want to couple this with what I'm thinking about around the pay as you go usage base. Can we lower the friction points there so that we get more people back to kind of Mark? How is Mark going to tap into those that are deconditioned, not doing anything today? Could that be the strategy? Once you're in, we provide this extraordinary experience and offer these different packages or whatever value adds that you want to create, right? Like brands with like Tonal and some other ones
So
where you get this hyper personalized AI powered journey and experience. So I'm really excited to see what that looks like. This has been so good. I really appreciate you jumping in here and walking through this with me and navigating through. I appreciate your perspectives and all of your experience. So much respect for you. For those that want to reach out to you and learn more about what you're doing at Tonal, congratulations, by the way, or
thank
just
you.
chat about the industry and what you're seeing, especially from the technology perspective, how can they reach out to you?
Through LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn. If you have, please connect with me, follow me. I have a newsletter that regularly goes out. I do have my own YouTube channel, and I really enjoyed this time as well. I can talk forever about
Me
this,
too.
and I think we're trying to fight the same fight, which is
Yeah,
trying to get operators to evolve or go the way of the dinosaur, unfortunately.
that's right.
And that's what we're seeing. Many more gyms are opening, but many are closing.
Yeah, that's the goal, right? For those operators or franchisors, franchisees who are listening, to your point, Marcelo, we want you to thrive. We don't want to see, and I know, 2020 was a little bit different, but we've been seeing this for years where some rise because they were open-minded, they changed their approach, they really focused in on the experience, they gathered a lot of data points and stored a lot of data and then acted upon it, right? We want to share this information. You get to a look today behind the scenes on conversations that are happening so that we go solve for this health crisis, but also so that owners like you who are personally guaranteeing your business with loans and all of that survive and make it and build wealth. And so
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. And we did touch on some financial points and some verbiage. And so if you want to chat more about that, if you're thinking about or want to talk more about cash flow, visibility, pricing models was a big topic
Or,
today.
or
Unit
two
economics
things.
is another one.
Yeah. Two things to add to that.
Yeah.
Depreciation expense as well. Why
Yes.
smarter tech actually helps in giving you better depreciation earlier than later. And then last thing I forgot to tell my website. It's www.bioinsights.
Love that. Well, make sure to go to the website and reach out to Marcelo on LinkedIn. This has been another episode of the Owner Seat Podcast. I'm your host, Albert Ramos. As I always mention, if you haven't been tuning in, new episodes drop every Monday and Friday at 8 a.m. Central, and actually might be throwing a couple in more per week because there's a lot of people that I'm wanting to chat with, and there's a lot going on. It's exciting. So I wanted you to stay up to speed. Thank you, Marcelo. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Appreciate you. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.